What is partial fraction decomposition? It's a method in algebra which does not get used until calculus. So that's why it almost is never taught in a high school algebra class. So this is the idea. If you have to add or subtract, for that matter, two fractions, say 2/3 plus 4/5, then one way to do that is to take the common denominator. If there's no common factor, then the common denominator is just their product. And then you divide each of these denominators into the common denominator. You divide 3 into 3 times 5, you get 5. You multiply by the corresponding numerator, which is 2. And you repeat the story here. Divide 5 into that, you get 3. Write that and multiply with the corresponding numerator, and you can simplify this. This is 10 plus 12, 22 over 15. And then you say that's the answer. So what you have really done is you combined two fractions into one. Now you can do the same thing if you have, say, two rational functions. So x plus 1 and then say minus 3 over x minus 5. Then you take the common denominator and divide each denominator and write down the result, x minus 5 times 2, and then minus, if you divide this, you get x plus 1 times 3. And you simplify, what you get is, so let's go ahead and simplify. I have 2x minus 3x, so that's a negative x. And then negative 10 minus 3 is negative 13 over x plus 1, x minus 5. I could FOIL this and I could write that if I want. And that's the idea. You combine two fractions and you get one fraction. Now, with rational numbers, you almost never have to go in the other direction. You almost will never encounter a problem where you're given this fraction, 22 over 15, and you're asked to come up with two fractions that add up to that. That would be a difficult problem. But for rational functions, we have to go in the opposite direction. So you might be given this function and you're asked to integrate. So if you are asked to integrate something like negative x minus 13 over, let's go ahead and multiply this out. You get x squared minus 4x minus 5. Then there's no other way you could integrate this. You would have to factor this and split it as two partial fractions. These are called the partial fractions. This is what we get when we combine these two, and you can split this into its component fractions, and those component fractions are called partial fractions. So when you split it that way, then notice, then it splits into two integrals where the denominator is a linear function. And if the denominator is a linear function and numerator is just a constant, you can use substitution method to integrate each of these pieces. So that's the reason we study partial fraction decomposition. And how do I get from here to there? We'll have to learn that in a separate video, but that's the idea of partial fraction decomposition, is so you could rewrite your integrals, your problem, your integrand as sum or difference of two fractions which have either linear or quadratic denominator.